Hey, Truck Roy here, and we're on the Riding Shotgun Show. I have Lord Nelson with us, which he's been on my show several times before in the past. And then I have Horace with us, and Horace is a new guest to the show. Horace does a MP3 podcast download, and is it a ham radio show too as well, Horace?
No, it is just a MP3 podcast basically.
Okay, well, I recently was made aware of it by Lord Nelson, and it is one of the most entertaining, well, probably the most entertaining white nationalist type radio show that I've heard in a really, really long time. And you got a lot of creative imagery in there, which creativity hasn't been the strong point of our media, but I'm really liking what I'm hearing from you, Horace. Now, you know Lord Nelson from Whittaker.com?
I know Lord Nelson from www.Whittaker. Is it Whittaker Online? Let me check it here. It's whittakeronline.org.
Okay, and so you guys are both students of Bob Whittaker.
We're both students of Bob Whittaker. Yes.
Yeah. Now, for the audience members that don't know who Bob Whittaker is, Lord Nelson, you want to fill them in a little bit on who Bob is?
Well, Bob Whittaker tends to take a very different view of the whole situation with the ongoing genocide against whites. He really does point the blame where it starts, rather than just going on about our beautiful white race and how wonderful we are. He really does sort of just tell it like it really is. It's not. He has a sort of very unique approach to the situation that we all find ourselves in, and I'm proud to call myself a Whittakerite.
Right.
I would say.
No, I had Bob on one of my first shows, and when I first read Bob Whittaker's post on Stormfront, I knew he was a smart guy, but a lot of what he was saying was going right over my head. And it helped to understand that basically what he's trying to do is boil things down into little memes or little catchphrases that will cut right to the chase and will make the point in a positive way. And that's kind of what you try to do in your show is use those memes a lot, right, Horace?
Well, exactly. What we're doing is the objective is to get every little white rabbit everywhere, all the indigenous white rabbits of Europe, as we call them, on a consistent message. To have them saying something just like you heard in the Obama campaign. Oh, yes, we can. I want you on a consistent message. So you always have something to say and what to say and when to say it, that type of thing.
Right, and now this is a pretty simple thing, but I think it's very difficult for people to get into their heads because it's not something that we unconsciously do. It's not something that we do in random conversation. We like to analyze things, try to figure them out, argue about them, but that's not what this is about. It's not about arguing something or trying to convince somebody of something through logic, right?
Oh no, you cannot convince anyone because you're dealing with, if for lack of a better word, you're dealing with a lot of people. It doesn't matter how smart they are, but they've been heavily conditioned. The term would be brainwashed, and you're dealing with
Go ahead, Lord Nelson.
I was going to say, we're actually dealing with psychological warfare here. And
Right.
we're so obsessed with the fact that we are right. We try to get every detail, statistics, everything like that. But this is psychological warfare. This actually goes back to the playground. Calling kids names.
Calling names.
That's it. It's very gutter. It's very dirty. But, we're just fighting fire with fire.
Right, but what we're talking about is we're not talking about calling somebody names like, calling somebody a nigger or something like that. We're talking about something lot more effective, right?
What we're talking about in American terms would be a nana 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 over and over again. Nana 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 over and over again. You get called a racist, I don't want you responding to that any other way, but in your opinion I'm a racist. You're just saying that because I'm white. Anti-racism is a code word for anti-white. Over and over again.
So if somebody listens to you and they tell you that you're a racist, Horace, then you're going to tell them that
in your opinion I'm a racist. You're just saying that because I'm white. Anti-racism is a code word for anti-white.
All right. So and you just basically keep pounding them with that until you get it through their head.
What they're going to do is either lay off, which they do to me, or they are going to challenge that and say, no, it's not just our opinion. You say, wait a minute. No one's flooding Mexico with non-Mexicans in some attempt to end racism and, quote-unquote, trying to force integrate them and, quote-unquote, to create some blended humanity. It's genocide. No one's flooding Japan with non-Japanese and giving them affirmative action, special rights and privileges, and free health care, and quote-unquote integrating and assimilating them in some attempt to create some blended humanity there. It's genocide. No one's flooding Africa with non-Africans and giving them affirmative action, free health care, special rights and privileges, in some attempt to create some blended humanity. It's genocide. Only white children are being affected by this. Only white countries are doing it. Only white leaders are supporting this. It's genocide.
All right, now do you get a lot of confused looks at this point?
Oh, sure. What you're doing is you're taking a standard approach that they've been conditioning in, and what you're doing is reconditioning. You're giving a big nana. You're hitting them on the head with a hammer. The simple one to get down is, in your opinion, I'm a racist. And a lot of times they'll sit there and try to argue and then realize 5 minutes into it, when I do the same thing over and over again, that yes, it is an attempted genocide.
Right, and now let me play the dumb guy who doesn't quite get what's going on here, and I am. I mean, it's taken me a while to get what you guys are saying here. So what you're saying is that what the multiculturalists are doing, like our leaders or anybody that's trying to bring non-whites into our country, is essentially genocide.
Yes. They have to enforce diversity. It's a closed society. They're saying they own the truth on diversity in only white children's homes. They say they own the truth on race in only white countries. They're saying that they're going to destroy the nation state. But they're not destroying the nation state in Asia or Africa. Only white children are being affected by this. So under international law, it is genocide. It's a clear and consistent targeting. And what we are doing is, in effect, as Lord Nelson says, psychological warfare. You are pointing this out again and again, and you're reconditioning. You're conditioning your environment.
Very important point. If you listen to Horace Wace, where it's coming from, his response is not something like, that blacks commit a lot more crimes, or blacks don't have any civilized societies in Africa. You just ignore all that. This is a Whitakerite approach. This is why Bob Whitaker, in my opinion, is so special. It's not trying to justify our right not to be made extinct, or our right not to be replaced in our own damn countries. It's actually coming back at the person by just telling them that they're just an anti-white racist, in effect.
So this is not defensive. It's a lot more offensive.
It is a blitzkrieg. It's a blitzkrieg. It's how we operate. It is full spectrum practical politics.
Now that practical politics, let's get to that word for a minute, because I've heard in your show, you at the beginning of every one of your shows, you say, I'm going to teach you practical politics. Define practical politics.
Practical politics is simply non-voting politics. It's what a little white rabbit does, or any white rabbit, or any rabbit, period, what you do when you open up your mouth. Practical politics is something every human being plays. Or we could say every white rabbit plays, or all rabbits. What I want you doing is playing our version. That's it. That is practical politics. Practical politics is what happens on Fox News when they're reading a talking point. Practical politics is what happens when a bunch of Democratic rabbits say, oh, yes, we can. It's simply talking points. It's staying on message. It is the basics. It's the basics to human behavior. It's the basics to human communication, which leads to behavior, which conditions behavior.
Okay, so when you say, yes, we can, that was the talking point from the Obama campaign.
Sure.
And it wasn't just an accident, and it's something that people just kind of picked up and ran with. You're saying that
Oh, no. Oh, no, they spent millions and millions of dollars developing it, just like Coca-Cola would spend millions and millions of dollars developing drink Coca-Cola. I can't think of who developed it. There's a science behind it. There's a science behind what Bob Whitaker does. That's why Bob Whitaker was hired by people in high places to do it for them in Washington and the CIA and whatnot. He's very gifted at this. But you see, we're not selling a brand. We're not doing spinning BS like the politicians. What we are doing is we are sowing seeds. We are basically weaving velvet. That is what it's called. We're weaving velvet. We're undermining a closed society. They have to enforce the rules. They have to enforce diversity by gunpoint more and more, simply because it's going to all come down, and the little white rabbits listening to this are going to go to a part of the planet, and these guys running Anglosphere in France and some other places are never going to have power ever again. You see, they have to enforce it.
All right. Okay. Now, for the average listener out there that's listening to this and going, whoa, you're blowing my mind here. Let me tell you this. you can go look up Bob Whitaker, and he did work for